space station will perform a series of leak checks, and then we'll work to open the spacecraft's hatch for crew.
Nick Hague, less than a year ago, she was supporting Nick as he launched with Crew a year ago. She was supporting Nick as he launched with Crew 9. She was originally set to command that mission, but when Crew 9 had of assignments, she had to step back. And here's what she go into space.
Every crewed launch that I have ever watched has really brought me a lot of emotion. This one today was especially unique. I think it was hard not to watch that rocket lift off without thinking, that's my rocket and that's my crew. But I also know that I'm not the only person who can think that. Of course, we have Stephanie Wilson here today, but I mean, there are many, many people who made this mission happen, and there are people on orbit who will be taking this capsule home. And it makes me very proud to know that I am one of many people who can say, that's my crew, that's my rocket. It makes me really proud, makes me feel very connected to this mission that we all get to take part of. Go Crew 9.
An emotion-filled Zena Cardman in that moment, and she is going to give us some words any moment now.
Confirm display for launch.
Your thoughts on hearing that after you launch?
Greater than any individual. But the individuals that endeavor to each of you at SpaceX and NASA are part of this enough friends and mentors. You fly with us today.
And more words.
The same old program for everyone staying here. We enjoy working with you in the preparation for the mission. I'm looking forward to doing the same in flight. Good luck. Enjoy the ride.
And
what Zena said is so true. Yeah. It's this palpable feeling that, hey, that's my crew. Those are my friends. Hey, that's my commander. And just to be here and know that, I've done my small part to help support them and along their way, and there'll be more support that happens in the future. And to be able to see behind the scenes everybody else that is contributing to that is, that's what makes this all so special, is it's not about the individual. Spaceflight has nothing to do with individuals. It's all about us working together.
100% well said, Nick, and kudos to both of you for showing an immense amount of class. You signed up to do this role almost immediately after getting into space, and we heard from you saying, I want to be there for Zena. Thank you for being here, and go Crew 11. And so with just 7 minutes to go, a little over 7 minutes, we want to send it back to Hawthorne for the final countdown.
Thank you, Daryl. Thank you, Nick. And those were beautiful words from Zena Cardman. You can hear the emotions behind them, and looking forward to getting ready for launch. They say Crew 11 is ready. As you mentioned, about 7 minutes and change to go until we have liftoff, and we're still awaiting the final propellant loading to complete, and then we'll get into engine chill, and more milestones will be along the way. It's going to be about a 9-minute ride to orbit, and then Dragon in the second stage will continue to coast for a few minutes after that once the first stage and second stage have performed. You'll be hearing some of those performance calls as we get into that final countdown, and then after liftoff. These are SpaceX flight controllers reporting on the trajectory, speed, boost, performance, and the key milestones, but there are some other calls that you'll hear the crew make as well, especially after liftoff. The crew will report out a few number and letter combinations which mark different abort zones throughout the flight up the eastern seaboard. The first two, 1A and 1B, are abort modes available. And right on cue for the engine chill that has begun. And those first stage abort zones, again, 1A and 1B for that first stage. Next are 2A through E. Those will come into play once the second stage kicks in. They'll only hear that 2A call. And diverting a little bit from the other naming systems, we'll hear the call Shannon, which refers to Shannon, Ireland. This means that the crew could target off the coast of Ireland if they needed to abort late in that second stage burn. You'll hear these different calls throughout the flight uphill along the way, and the performance callouts from the guidance, navigation, and control officer, and also the propulsion lead. So we're coming up on T-minus 6.5 minutes. We heard that the engine chill is started, and that means that a small trickle of fuel making its way to the engine alignment.
We already heard that stage 1 engine chill has already started. Stage 2 process prepares the engines for flight. Right now, the prop in the tanks is isolated from the engines. Sorry. The prop tanks has already started trickling into the Merlin engine pumps as the engines are chilling for the start sequence. And we do this because the super chilled and densified liquid oxygen is really, really cold. And we use this process to bring the engine hardware down to a cooler temperature before flowing all of the LOX and propellant into it during flight. At liftoff, Falcon 9 is consuming 700 gallons of fuel per second. So engine chill helps us to prevent thermal shock and ensures nominal engine performance. Shortly coming up, we should also hear the call out for stage 1 RP1 load completion.
As you mentioned, engine chill is now underway. We're getting ready for those next call-outs that'll be coming up here shortly, as we are now almost 5 minutes away from liftoff, and that's where they're going to configure for terminal count. And that will be a call for Dragon to configure to terminal count and transition into internal power.
Falcon 9 tanks are pressurizing for strong back retract.
At this point, the Dragon onboard computers
for terminal count.
Perfect, right on schedule, and those onboard computers now taking control of the spacecraft. You also heard the call out for pressurizing to give extra structural stability for the rocket as it makes its way uphill. So we're approaching now 4.5 minutes away, and then around that time, you'll hear, you mentioned it there, the strong back retract, and that'll allow provide access to Falcon 9's fueling lines and umbilicals, prop load, and a different gas is being loaded on board. But right now, everything's starting to wrap up in Somia. It's exciting
Strong
to get to
back retract has started.
exciting to get to this point of the countdown. As you heard it right there, the strong back retract is on its way.
So we have a great view on our screen of the clamp arms opening up just around stage 2 under Dragon in preparation for strong back retract. We have some really great views on our screen of that happening right now.
You can see it just moving ever so slightly away from Falcon 9 and the Dragon spacecraft, those clamp arms opening. And again, those late stages, those fuel lines starting to wind down their fueling procedures as we're about to hit T-minus 3 minutes to launch. Second stage loading will wrap up shortly after the first, and you've probably noticed those white clouds venting from around the rocket. That isn't smoke.
Stage
That's
1 LOX load complete.
That's condensation, as stage 1 liquid oxygen loading has been completed. As liquid oxygen warms slightly inside the tanks, some of it boils off, and that gas is vented to manage pressure. When the vented oxygen hits that warm Florida exhibit air,
Internal count and on internal power.
it instantly condenses into those clouds. You just now heard the Dragon now and properly on into internal power. It's fully fueled. The rocket and Crew 11 are ready for liftoff. And this rocket now transitioning into internal power. The gas closeouts will also begin to purge all the feed lines and allow Falcon 9 to be isolated. And then they'll get vented overboard through the umbilicals and on back retract.
So coming up in just under 20 seconds, we should hear the call out that LOX load will be completed on stage 2, which will mean that there will be 1 million pounds of propellant loaded onto Falcon 9 at that point. We're coming up on that call out in just a few seconds from now.
Stage 2 LOX load complete.
Now that that's complete, we will vent down the TE, which will produce a white cloud off the side of the rocket, which is totally normal and expected.
Dragon is in auto idle.
Auto idle puts that rocket in a state the flight computers understand before it takes over. That's making sure the transition to the final countdown is smooth and all the flight computers on board are in sync with each other and configured for launch. We're now 90 seconds away from
Ground
launch.
gas closeouts have started. Expect loud venting.
There's the gas closeout that Sonia was just talking about, and now inside 80 seconds from the launch of NASA Spacex Crew 11.
On countdown, hold. We are standing down for violation of weather rules. I'll try to sequence is aborted.
just have a hold called at the T-minus 1 minute mark.
And that hold due to weather, that was something that we've been keeping an eye on. Our team here in Spacex and Hawthorne, as well as NASA, we're monitoring that throughout today's broadcast in preparation for launch. But unfortunately, standing down looks to be the case as the weather has created that violation. But we'll continue to monitor and await for the news officially from the teams on the ground as that weather violation looks to come into play for launch today.
Dragon SpaceX, bad luck on weather there. We just got clipped by a cumulus cloud right over the pad, so ended up scrubbing for weather. With that, you are go to proceed to 5.100 for launch scrub. We'll begin offloading the rocket.
Dragon copies all 5.10. Too bad, but we'll be ready next time.
And there you heard the call up to the crew that unfortunately the weather just not playing alongside with today's excitement of a launch for NASA SpaceX's Crew 11. But we have mentioned a couple times throughout the broadcast today that there are backup opportunities starting as early as tomorrow. 11:43 a.m. Eastern time is what the target time is for tomorrow's next attempt for launch for Crew 11. But it came down to the wire Sonia with that T-minus 1 minute. But you're on the loops there that it was just clipped, as they said, by a cumulus cloud to violate the weather rules. So unfortunately, today's launch attempt has been
State coverage of the crew as we follow them through the egress procedures and making our way back to crew quarters.
And you said walk right up to the T-minus 1 minute to launch mark as everybody was features earlier today, sleep checks, also did communications checks, and we're able to go all the way to the pad. That next launch attempt, which is going to be tomorrow at 11:43 a.m. Eastern. Spacecraft and making their way back to crew quarters. To do that, we're going to head back out to the Space Coast of Florida and join the Daryl Nail and team as today's launch attempt for NASA SpaceX Crew 11 has been scrubbed due to weather. Daryl.
All right, thank you, Joseph and Samia. We appreciate your coverage there. And now back here with NASA astronaut Nick Hague. We just returned from being outside. We were planning to watch the launch right there from a nice viewing spot here at the press site, the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. And unfortunately, even as we walked out, Nick, we sensed that this might not happen because clouds had been building in around the area. We had dark clouds overhead of us. We got up on our area to watch the launch and heard a phase 1 lightning alert go off. And then my heart kind of sank a little bit because I thought that might be it.
Yep. Then you see the clock stop.
Yes.
And you know it's happened. So it's disappointing. But there's a reason we do it. That's to keep everybody safe.
It's so critically important. As you look at this shot here, you can see that just right over top, you've got some darkened clouds in the area. This was a result but there was a 10% concern that the sea breeze was going to develop earlier in the day than originally forecast. And that sea once that air starts moving over the ocean and on land and meets the warm air, our blue skies went to cumulus clouds scattered across the spaceport. And we just had one get just inside the 10-mile radius.
Dragon SpaceX awareness.
And so what is it, real quick, what does that mean, Nick? They are going to rotate the seats?
Yeah, so escape system. And so the crew is